This is BBC News. I'm Carol Walker.
The daily news bulletins we receive on television are something as common these days as making a cup of tea in the morning. Whether you tune in first thing, around lunch, or just before bed, the way we consume news has changed vastly in the last century, where there is always a story to read or watch at our fingertips. However, back in the earliest days of broadcast news, there was one particular day where the BBC, then still in its infancy, claimed they had nothing to broadcast at all. The British Broadcasting Company began its radio operations in 1922, and by 1930, the medium of radio had become insanely popular amongst households all across Britain. News bulletins weren't as constant as they are now, with the BBC having to broadcast often in the evening to not curtail the newspaper industry, which was still very much in fear of the burgeoning radio industry. Between the various operas and high-end programming that transmitted over the airwaves in the early days, the nightly news bulletin, often at 8:45 p.m, would provide listeners who perhaps had foregone the humble newspaper the chance to find out what was going on in Britain and indeed the world, by listening to that voice from that little box in the living room.
Hello, 2LO calling, 2LO calling.
The 18th of April, 1930, proved to be a rather interesting day for the BBC News team. It was Good Friday, a national holiday in the UK, but that didn't mean radio programming had a day off, far from it. A normal bout of programmes were lined up, virtually all of them broadcast live as was the standard. As 8:45 p.m. rolled around, it was time for the news, and the announcer had only this to say. Good evening. Today is Good Friday. There is no news. And for the next 15 minutes, piano music was played as an interim. From a modern day perspective, this is quite hilarious. Imagine a newsreader looking down the camera on TV and saying to you, yep, there's no news today. Unimaginable, really. Obviously, back in 1930, news gathering wasn't as comprehensive as it is today, and the newspaper industry itself would rarely publish over Easter. So, was there genuinely no news on that day in 1930? Of course not. Looking back in hindsight, there were various things going on at home and in the world that the BBC could have reported on. But for whatever reason, Good Friday 1930 will forever be marked as the day there was no news.
Good evening and welcome to BBC News. I'm Martyn. It's 9 o'clock. I'm just going to move back to the main set. I know this has happened before.